What is up, everybody? Welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. Welcome to PCP Movie Night, and we're continuing March Madness 2023, where we talk about the insanity of cinema with some of the greatest thrillers, horrors, whatever you want to call them, some of the best movies out there. We're diving into them, and maybe some of the not so best if you're watching Dylan's Horror Show, but no shade thrown over to my brother Dylan. We have a great panel tonight, ready to talk about 1980s Dressed to Kill, starring Angie Dickinson, Michael Caine, Nancy Allen, written and directed by the legendary Brian De Palma. Speaking of Brian De Palma, this man's favorite mate is his De Palma. It's Jelani. What is up, my man? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I get things in my hands, and then it just happens. It's a thing, man. It's a medical condition. What's up, man? Station. Glad to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you here. Glad to have you. First time watching for this one. Also, speaking of first time watching, Brooks, who also loves his De Palma. What's up?
Hey, can anybody tell me like what the point of the opening scene of this movie was?
Or everything?
I figured it was going to come back at some point in the end, but I'm like, I don't even know who these characters are in the beginning and what the whole point of that scene is.
What scene are you talking about?
The scene where, she's in the shower, lady's in the shower, her husband's shaving.
Oh, it was a dream or something.
It's a dream, bro.
It was a dream?
A dream. The beginning is a dream. The end is technically a dream.
Yeah, it's bookended by dreams, Brooks. I was for a second. I thought Brooks was thinking we were doing the Kiss album, Dressed to Kill, or something. Man, I didn't know what the hell we were doing. All right. Speaking of DHS, though, and also a fan of De Palma, of his De Palma, is Steph. What is
that? What's going on, fellas?
What's going on? Was this your first time watching this one?
Yes, it was my first time.
Interesting. Yeah. All right. We also got a huge fan of 70s De Palma. It's Scarpet. What is up, man?
My hairy De Palma. I'm doing good. I can tell Brooks exactly what 1 minute into this movie, I knew I was gonna love it. I haven't seen it in about 10 years, 15 years. 1 minute in, it's 80s Bush, man. That's all it meant. And it was a dream.
Yeah, and it was a dream. Yeah, 100%. And speaking of a dream, in his dreams, he likes to spend lots of time with his De Palma. It's Mike06. What is up, man?
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
Going well, man.
It's good.
Is this your first time watching this one?
No, I watched this back in 1997 when it first came out.
This didn't come out in 97. Oh, my God. What'd you watch?
Yeah, it did.
1980, man. Which one did you watch? I'm going along with your bit, just so you know.
I watched Dressed to Kill.
Is there a 97 Dressed to Kill? Starring who?
I think it had like Chow Yun Fat. Oh, shit.
I thought it was one of them Skinamax movies.
No, it's Dressed to Kill with Eddie Izzard.
Oh, yeah. The Eddie
Izzard.
Yeah.
I think I watched Undressed to Kill. What the hell?
No, Eddie Izzard. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's good stuff. Dressed to Kill is my favorite. All right. Anyway, so tonight we're talking about 1980s Dressed to Kill by Brian De Palma. This is a movie that was lauded at first, and then over time, as the years progressed, it's been considered nowadays a rather problematic film. So I figured, who better to tackle a problematic film in today's lens than Jelani, Brooks, Steph, Scarpat, and Mike, and me, right? We're experts, I guess, on this subject. Just kidding.
Solve the world's problems.
I just want to go ahead and get out of the way that anything stated by anybody on the panel tonight outside of me does not, in fact, represent the views of PCP. All right. Get out of the way.
Just so everybody knows, I went to college.
Thank you to everybody. Yeah. We got GT Comic. We got Rogue Collecting. We got BJ. We got the Luke Meister. Thank you all for being here. We want to know what y'all think about this movie, too, because I think it's a really good movie. It has some problematic elements watching it today, okay? But I think it's a very sensual and erotic movie. And I love movies that are sensual and erotic. It is beautifully shot. Like, nobody can ever argue that Brian De Palma does not understand the technical craft of making a film. And if you're not familiar, Brian De Palma, who did Carrie, who did Blowout, which I haven't seen, but it's apparently the movie is based on the movie that Bird with the Crystal Plumage is kind of based on, right? Body Double. Scarface is Brian De Palma, right? That's Brian De Palma and
Yeah, it's probably
yeah, right? He at least
Oliver
wrote it,
Stone.
right? Or he
That was
directed it.
Brian De Palma. He did that.
Oliver
Yeah,
Stone
he directed
wrote
it.
I think, and then De Palma directed it. Anyway, fantastic director. Everybody can nobody can really argue that. I do think that it does attempt to explore some themes that it's just not quite ready for. Obviously, the transsexual stuff. Obviously, I even think trying to throw a look into sensuality from a woman's perspective, but at the same time, not understanding that if you're trying to explore how important a woman's sexuality is, especially in marriage and being satisfied, don't kill her once she realizes that satisfaction. Don't give her a VD and then kill her. It's like one after
She had a bad day.
She was punished.
really bad day. She was punished for something that people shouldn't be punished for, right? That's exactly the way to
Absolutely.
put it. But overall, I do like the film. I don't think it ages super well. And that's one of the things I wanted to do tonight. And I was making a bit when I said, oh, here we are experts. No, but we are experts on film. We are able to put these films in their context, their proper context from when they were released and when they were come up with. And today we can look at movies from back in the day and pull things out or dissect it. And that's what I want to do. I hadn't seen this movie since my early 20s. And I've seen this movie like 2 times in my life. And in my early 20s, we're talking about the early 2000s, we were not very far along in our understanding of a lot of stuff about human sexuality and gender and sex and all this kind of stuff, right? And we're still learning a lot about this wonderful spectrum, I believe, of expression, right? And self-actualization. And I'm all for it. This movie, though, it is sensual. It is erotic. It is beautifully shot. It's got amazing music from somebody who we've been talking about a lot lately, Pino Donaggio. We'll get into his work, but it does just feels a bit misguided in some of its explorations, not just on the sexual nature of things, but also the mental nature of things. It equates mental health struggles with straight up evil at times, like I had mentioned before we went live. So Jelani, as a first-time watcher on this film, I'm curious, what do you think? What do you think about Dress to Kill?
I know what I'm going to say, but I'm going to say it. So here we go. I did not like this film. I just really didn't. I don't. It's a giallo that's trying. It's clearly a giallo, but it's not. It's like Brian De Palma watched some stuff and then did it. That to me, it has a great premise. The premise of the story is if it worked out, which I don't think it was executed properly at all, not at all. There are depictions of characters that I don't like at all in this film. The whole subway scene, that entire subway scene, is awful to me. It's only one kill, and it's at the big. And it takes too long to get there. The kill that you get isn't. I don't know. She's killed so haphazardly. It feels so just. It's weird to set up Angie Dickinson, and I might as well. You set up Angie Dickinson, and it feels like she's the main character, and you're going through it, and you're like, she has this will that she wants to be satisfied. She doesn't want to be satisfied, and then when she is satisfied, she's horribly murdered in an elevator. You know what I'm saying? And
she realizes she might contact the BD first. So
you got BD. She got BD, and now she's got oh my God, it's horrible. And then she gets killed. It's awful. But I don't like. I don't know. I don't like the way that was set up. To me, that was poorly set up. The kid from Back to School and Christine's in it. I like him, but they're just characters in this film that just don't work with me. Like I said, that subway scene still gets me because it's a stereotype.
It's got a racial connotation. It's got a racist connotation.
Very racist connotation. Hey, we're black. We just need to get this pretty white lady.
This is also only 7 years after Death Wish, and there's the same story there.
I know. It just, I don't know. I don't like it. But watching it now, I mean, that's fine. Under the lens of watching it and watching what the actual like duality is and who the killer is. And by the way, from Tenebrae last week, I found out I knew who the killer was like 20 minutes in. I was like, oh, yeah, it's him. Okay. And knowing that I'm like, okay, because he mentions he's married, but you never see a wife or ring. You never see him go home with his family. You know, I'm always at the office. It's always little stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, oh yeah, that's him. But I mean, to me, my first impressions, I don't really like it. I'm not really a fan of it. It is beautifully shot. It does have the aesthetic, the beautiful music, but there's just too. I mean, I could keep going on and on because the end dream, I hate the end dream. You hear me? I absolutely. We'll talk about story and structure, but I fucking hate that bullshit. And you know why?
I got that in my notes. I got that in my notes for sure. Is the end, man?
Yeah, it's got the damn April Fool's vibe, dog. It's the April Fool's bullshit.
Wait, we don't need to. Hold on. We don't want to spoil April Fool's because that's coming up on Dylan's Horror Show, and I don't know if Steph or Scarpat have watched that one.
Bullshit. Watch April Fool's Day and wonder why they made that bullshit.
I think it's a great movie, man. But anyway,
well, they have a horror movie on a holiday.
It's fucking horrible. Anyway, I hate that movie. I fucking hate it. Fuck that movie.
All right. So you weren't that impressed with Dress to Kill?
No, but it gave me them vibes of April Fool's, and I'm just like, no, son, pass.
Gotcha.
So
all right, Brooke, this was your first time watching this one. What do you think about Dress to Kill? And there's the man himself, DHS, right there. And then the other man himself, Perry. I need some Batman clips, motherfucker. Come on, dude. I need them. Like, I'm not kidding. And what's up, Manny? How you doing, bro? Good to see you here. Brooks, what do you think about Dress to Kill?
It's all right. I mean, I didn't particularly like it or hate it. I mean, it obviously had some kind of like the whole idea of mental illness and transsexuality is kind of very, very dated. But that was a pretty common thing back in those days to do in movies, like to make an antagonist or a villain have mental issues or have some kind of weird sexual quirk. But one thing that I did find interesting about this movie is the main, the witness to the murder is like a sex worker, but she's portrayed as a very independent person. She's successful, she's wealthy. Like her profession isn't like her entire personality. There's more to her. Like you get to see more to her than you normally would back in the day. If you had like a sex worker character, they tended to just make their entire personality revolve around the fact that they're a sex worker. Yeah. But I thought it was interesting. It was interesting that they took this Maine and made her a little more nuanced than you would expect. And I also love the idea of how, she goes to the cops and the cops find out, what she does for a living, and they automatically start basically writing her off.
Yep.
And, strong arming her and treating her, like they would a criminal, basically.
This movie's trying to make some statements, and it's trying to make some, and I love that you bring that up because she trades on Wall Street. She's got a broker. She's got a nice apartment. She likes nice things. She has agency in what she does. She enjoys what she does. Sometimes she says, right? And
she's the escort.
Well, she's also the director's wife too, so I didn't think
she was, but
want to put her in a bad light there.
Well, he wrote that role for her. So he had to there is some progressive nature to the elements in this story. And then I just think that he's trying to throw in too much that he's not ready to tackle. Right. But that is one thing that does age well is the treatment of one of the main characters who is a sex worker and not making that and actually portraying that as a struggle, not as in it's something that she's forced into or this, but showing that, no, this is her job. This is what she enjoys doing. And look how the rest of everybody treats her because of this. But she herself is a very, very strong woman in this movie, I think. Even though she winds up falling in love with like a 17-year-old kid.
Well,
how old was she? Who was she?
Never said.
Never said. She's probably pretty young. Brooks,
she could have been like 20, 21.
Oh, no.
Oh, she's definitely 21, right? She can drink, surely.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, Steph, what did you think about Dress to Kill? And this was your first time watching.
It was. I have to rewatch The Ripper, but I haven't seen too many Giallo. I don't know how much. I've watched is like through you and Dylan. But I do, for whatever reason, kind of gave me like The Ripper vibes in certain scenes. But it was an interesting film. To riff off what Jelani was saying, of not only him copying the Giallo style, I think he kind of took some ideas or stuff that was going on that people weren't comfortable with at that time. And he wasn't nuanced enough himself to really explore those themes in this movie. Yeah. So that's kind of why he vilified Michael Caine's character at the end of the day, because he wanted to back those ideas, when there's nothing wrong with that. He's doing the right thing. I think his heart was in the right place, but the execution was lacking. But it was an interesting enough film. Like you said, the composition, all the shots are beautiful. It definitely a thriller. I like one scene in particular that stuck out to me where it was like kind of thrillerish but not necessarily threatening, was when the wife, the lady that gets killed, she's in that art gallery and she's kind of like flirting with that guy, and there's like a lot of back and forth, and to the point where she's like trying to find him because I guess she dropped her glove and he picked it up or whatever. Is that okay? And he's like, every time she turns a corner, he's just out of reach and stuff so I thought that was really cool.
And when she does come up to him, she gets almost disgusted with herself and she backs away, and he's wearing the glove.
Yeah.
Like, when I was watching that, I was like, is this Michael Jackson? No, that's the glove.
And he's the same guy from the shower scene.
Yes.
Yeah.
Was he?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, same guy.
But it was an interesting film. I think his heart was in the right place, but he just didn't know enough about the ideas himself to really. He shouldn't have done it. Long story short.
It seems like he will. If you watch some of the behind the scenes stuff, he says because at that time there was a lot of coverage of transgender people, right?
Right.
And trans women, trans men, but in particular trans women. And to him, he found that interesting, something he wanted to explore. But what he pulled out of that was like a Jekyll and Hyde type thing, right? And in that day, I get it and everything, but we can look at it now and we can kind of see how that was problematic, right?
Right.
There is maybe a way to look at this film in a different way through today's standard. We'll get to all that later on. But Scarpad, what do you think about this one on the rewatch? And I love how you were like, I haven't seen this movie in like 10, 15 years, but before we went live, you said you hadn't seen it since the 90s. Bruh, the 90s were like 30 years ago.
Well, whatever that is. That's not when it came out.
What do you think, Scarpad?
Yeah, I think this is probably the weakest movie Brian De Palma has done. Just because it really is just he wants to make a Hitchcock movie. And he wants this movie to be pretty much psycho. I mean, we get the past, once you get past the sex stuff that's in it, we get an actress, Angie Dickinson, big actress from the 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s. She's Janet Leigh, and basically gets killed off in the first, 20 minutes of the movie in the elevator in a scene that was pretty similar to being in the shower, getting slashed. That was almost directly out of it. Other than that long 9-minute scene in the museum when there was no, and you notice that there's very little dialogue in this movie up to the point where Nancy Allen takes over. And I think where the movie also could survive is Nancy Allen, I think, became a great actress, but this was one of her first roles, and she wasn't that here. I thought she was kind of weak, and coming after somebody like Angie Dickinson, who had some gravitas, the movie kind of stepped back a little bit when she took over. There wasn't enough. I didn't think there was enough. And they had the kid in there, the son. There wasn't enough with his character really even showing that he loved his mother, other than that one scene he had. And they had maybe a little bit more at the beginning where they had more interaction. His inclusion in the movie would have made more sense. And then, of course, the ending is right out of Psycho. I mean, if you look at Robert Black's original manuscript for Psycho, had Anthony Perkins basically being a transvestite. And they kind of mentioned it a little bit in the movie, but they didn't go much into that. And that's what that was here. And it was, as Steph said, or I think Janae said, I knew exactly once again
Mhm.
that Michael Caine was going to be the killer immediately.
Enjoy.
There was no sense in hiding that. So
I
as a
will. Not to interrupt, but I will say they got me on that part. I was a little I wasn't really shocked, but when I was like, oh, I was like, it was kind of a moment where I was like, God damn it, there
So
was Michael Caine.
I
as a
knew
mystery,
I knew
as a
Yeah.
mystery movie, I
Yeah,
don't think it
yeah.
really worked all that well. It worked more as like a very artsy attempt to kind of recreate the Giallo and Hitchcock movies in one, because he wanted to kind of
Mhm.
do that type of picture. And you know, it was okay, but definitely not one of my favorite movies. I just think it was a little weak sauce toward the end. And you're right, the ending. Oh my God!
The ending's some bullshit,
I
man.
looked at it like,
Yeah.
is that really happening? Oh no,
It's
it's just
exposition dump.
Just a bit
And
dream.
it's some
yeah, it's just a.
bullshit.
But I mean,
Right.
the acting. I mean, the whole cast was fantastic, and it had one of my favorite guys, Dennis Franz, who can play a sleazy cop in everything he's in. He's perfect.
That's all he
for the role.
plays, bro.
That's
Except
all
for
he
the
does.
time he plays the sleazy hotel manager in Psycho 2.
Exactly. Yeah, he's a great guy. So yeah, not one of my favorites, but it was watchable. You know.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you mentioned Dennis Franz, because the Dennis Franz of the Excitable PCP crew is Mike the Voice Matthews. Mike, the Franz, what did you think about Dress to Kill?
Am I the only one that didn't have a problem with the ending? Like, I had no issues with the dream. Like,
I just hate how it dominated the third act, man.
It shows
It dominated the third act. And it was just
She was
like,
scarred.
what is this?
I do love how it bookends the film between two shower dreams, right? In a way, right? I like.
Well, I like the. It was kind of like, well, you know what happened to him? Like, they never said, because he's sitting there in the police station when they're all talking. It's just kind of like, so what's going to happen to him? And they're just like, well. And then you go to the scene where she's at the restaurant, and then they're explaining the whole shit thing of breaking it down, and then it's like, well, what happened to him? Well, and then you go into like this dream, so you you really don't know what happened to him. You just kind of assume. So then it's just kind of like, oh, well, we get to see him, and
why would they stick him in a mental institution? He killed a woman. You kill a woman, you go to jail.
Because
because he was transsexual and mental.
He's got DID, and then there's the connotation that his transsexual nature or their transsexual nature comes out of that, right? But like,
get in the room.
Yeah, he was schizoid or bipolar.
And he has his own room.
No.
Yeah.
When we saw him wake up, that's a dream. That's the dream. And I think it's intentionally. This whole movie has got soft lighting, but in the dream sequences in particular, it was ultra soft. And when we see that with the blue light and everything, that's our first visual clue. And we got to remember that Brian De Palma is first and foremost a visual director, much like Argento is, right? Like there's that element to the idea. Unfortunately, it just seems like he cares more about the story, where Argento does not give a fuck.
Well, and if you go back and look at that scene, like in the hospital or the asylum scene, you're actually walking towards the light, because once you get to that room, there's nothing but just steady. Like, no asylum's got lights on poles like that. It's all overhead lights. So like it was. So that was the whole. It was this bright light that was focused right at you. So it was one of those kind of like it was. I don't. It just kind of made you walk. It kept like it was guiding you into it.
Michael Caine looks very like vampiric in that scene, right? And then like when he attacks the nurse gets very pale. There's almost like that kind of element to it as well.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, overall, like I enjoyed this film. Like I watched it. I can't remember. Sometime in the 90s. I was probably
like 10 years ago in the 90s.
Yeah. It was either had to be 90, somewhere between 94 and 97. Somewhere in that time. And then I went back and watched it again. No, I didn't. I remember I was going to go back and watch it, and I rented it, and I never got around to it. And it was one of those, like, you've got 7 days to watch this movie. And it's just like, I forgot about it. But no, it's enjoyable. It's fun as a little thrill ride. Like it's got a lot of elements. Well, I mean, you got the whole.
I mean, you just say fun is not the word I would use to describe this movie, but I get you. Okay, I get you.
Oh no, but it's just like it's kind of I mean, as me being a cinephile, like it's fun because it's got great cinematography. Like what I call fun, what I look for the tone and the story. It's kind of sad and savage, but other than that, it's like there's parts of it that I really like.
Yeah, I get you there. All right. A great movie has a great cast, and whether or not this movie's great to you, it's got a great cast. It's got some great performances. Jelani, what is a character / performance you want to highlight?
I would go for the Black Caine, but I'm not gonna be that crass.
I got a problem with this bitch right here, man.
I'm a bobble.
First they wanted to go away, and then they start chasing her.
And they're like chasing her, and like they're chasing her like the dog from Tenebrae. I'm like, you need to calm down, son.
I think one of those dudes was rerun from What's Happening too. One of the big guys.
What I did, okay, so initially I'm like, okay, they're bothered because they're like, yo, we don't need no white woman around here because you're gonna get us in trouble. They're gonna think we're dealing or something, right? But yeah, they all of a sudden just be like,
and they're just like, hey,
after her.
Let's get her.
I'm like, is that like this woman ain't got enough to deal with? Bro, she needs to be chased, and then the cop doesn't believe her, And as soon as the cop gets out, they show the back up all of a sudden.
They're like, hey!
I had to rewind that. I was like, what happened?
I couldn't stand them. I was like,
she all of a sudden wound up in Scorsese's fucking Bad video, man, is what happened. Man. All of a sudden, she was just like in the wrong place, I guess. I don't know.
It just turned into New York, and I'm like, New York in the 80s, and just like, oh my God, this is wrong. I don't know. It just didn't feel right to me. But that's not who I was going to pick. I was going to pick Keith Gordon, the kid. I like him a lot in this film. He's just this kid, like learning his circuits, being a total nerd. And then his mom dies out of the blue, and he wants his answers, and he Batmans the shit out of everything for this movie. Like
he makes it more, I think.
You should have been way more in this movie. He did not get enough credit. Yeah. I liked it. I liked his innocent nature. I liked his curiosity. I like that. I really liked his character, and he's shown out more than most characters in this film. Like I knew. Yeah, I knew Michael Caine, who Michael Caine was the second I saw Michael Caine. I was like, oh, yeah, it's him. And
never.
Never. I never do it. I'm married. And a psychiatrist, and
I find you attractive.
Psychology. Yeah, I studied psychology in college. But you're not supposed to just you're not supposed to imprint your feelings and thoughts onto your patient. Right. And she's like, do you find me attractive? Do you do this? You're supposed to divert that conversation back to them, or deviate the conversation back to them. And he tried that, but he didn't. He was just like,
oh, yeah,
I do. Yeah, you're hot. I do you. I can do you right, my flame.
But I would never do that because I respect my marriage.
And I respect my marriage to the wife I don't have a ring for.
I respect Bruce Wayne too much.
Yeah.
Bruce Wayne, Master Bruce.
The second I saw that,
got a full-time job.
The whole back and forth. By the way, I
this man's got a whole career. Now he's just out all of a sudden every time.
He just but you're not supposed to do that. And going back to Keith Gordon. Keith Gordon is always fantastic. I love him back to school as Rodney Dangerfield's son. I don't know. I still love
Christine, man.
He's great, Christine.
Oh,
yo. And I'm probably pretty sure this is earlier. I don't remember. When did Christine come out? 81?
83?
82,
Okay.
It was early.
Yo, he was a shitter, man. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Fucking shitters. All over the place. Fucking
shitters,
man.
But yeah. So I liked his character. He was really good. And I
really liked him a lot. And in fact, the whole vibe of him with the computers and the
camera,
just the sound mixing when he's making his computer, I was like, did Spielberg do this fucking scene? It's very Spielbergian, right? I like that. Brooks, what about you? What's a character and performance you want to highlight?
Well, I mean, like I mentioned before, I really liked the main character in this movie. She's the main, I guess, a third into the movie.
You're talking about Liz.
Yeah.
Nancy Allen. Yeah, Nancy Allen. By the way, Nancy Allen can get it, bro.
She can get
She's hot. She's quite attractive.
I find
She's
her
with the
attractive.
same partner in RoboCop.
Yes, I find you attractive.
No.
I've never
She's
Oh my
my
God, you
wife,
guys are
brother,
blowing
I'll
my
tell you
mind.
that much.
She is in RoboCop. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I like that. She's more than just what she is, like, because like, and it looks like at the beginning, like it looks like she's just gonna be like she's gonna be like the second victim,
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
but she ends up being like basically the driving force behind the story. And it shows that she's not only does she does sex work like on her own terms, like she doesn't have anybody like controlling like her business. It seems like she calls up somebody and is like
she enjoys
she'll
it.
do it if she feels like it or not.
Yeah.
And like it shows that she does other things, like she does the stock market, she collects art, she's successful, and she uses she even uses.
Why is she specking though? Why is she specking? You know what I'm saying? Like, if the artist dies, like, why are you specking, yo? Just read the damn book.
Sounds like somebody's putting out a hit on this artist.
All right.
I'll buy it.
I love when she's doing the shit like, I'm looking for a hot lunch and a coffee break. Hold on a second. Yeah, I have the money tomorrow. Go ahead and buy the stocks. I love it, man. And she's using these men, these Johns, right? She's using them for their information. She's and like, you may be a Park Avenue hall, but you're still she's high class, is what
she's a high class escort. Yeah, you could tell. She's
like how independent she is.
Yeah, she didn't have a pimp. She ain't got no. She's not street level. She's high class.
Well, she had a. If you go back and listen to the phone call, she's talking to another woman about the service that they work together. So obviously it's one of the, because she was just like, hey, when's this guy coming back and everything. And obviously, so but I'm saying it's like he'll be back in like 2 weeks, and it's just kind of like if you. I just listened to the way that conversation was going. It wasn't she wasn't talking to somebody like, hey, everything's planned, everything's super professional. So it's nothing like the side hustle on the corner.
Right. Yeah.
One thing
she was hesitant.
like when she's talking to the detective when they first bring her in, like she's playing the innocent, and then when he basically like tells her, "I know who you are," she pulls out a cigarette and just lights it up. It's like, she's just switching character right there.
After telling him to fuck off, man. Fuck you. No, fuck you. No, fuck you. You ain't got shit on me, motherfucker. Anyway, she does got her fingerprints all over that fucking blade. All right, Steph, what's your character performance you want to highlight?
Speaking of the blade, I'm gonna give it to the lady that got by the blade at the very beginning. I think she really sold her performance as a woman trying to fight conditioning, I guess, at that day and age. She's kind of thrown off by her becoming more aware of her sexuality and embracing that. And I think she played that balance really well as someone who's torn, but at the same time wanted to embrace innate feelings. So, and she was in the movie for a decently long time, but she got pretty early on, I guess, ish. But she sold the performance pretty well, so I'll give it to her.
Yeah, she does a great job. By the way, everybody, horn dogs out there, just so you know, that was a body double in the shower scene. Just so you know, all the close-ups, they were body double. Because one of my first notes I wrote was like, how old was she?
48.
She's pretty.
She was 48.
She looked good for 48.
Yeah, she looked good, man.
Yeah.
A lot of people looking good in this movie, man.
True. Yeah, very true.
Even Keith Gordon, man, before he lost all that hair, looking pretty decent in this movie. No, she does a great job in this film, and she carries it. She has to do the same thing that Janet Leigh has to do as Marion Crane in Psycho. But she has to be a believable main character that you totally get wrapped up in. And then she gets got, you know what I'm saying? So, like, and when I first saw this movie, like, I already knew that she was the first kill. So it almost removes that impact. I wish I could watch that movie with this impact. Speaking of impact, Scarpad. What's a character performance you want to highlight that has not been mentioned yet?
Well, you almost stole it from me, but I was going to say Victoria Johnson, because she did a really good job as in the shower scenes as the body double, and she actually, according to IMDb, actually had to dye her pubic hair, which was red, blonde. So I almost might give it to her, but I'm going to say
That's why Scarpad's here for the deep dives.
And the impact.
That's right. But besides that, I'm going to give it.
Scarpad.
I'm going to give it to Dennis Franz,
Great
who I
word.
love, and everything.
Movie archive.
That's right. So yeah, give it to Dennis Franz as a detective because I think I love his performance. Not the whole thing. It's almost like he doesn't give a shit. He's just gonna blame her anyways.
Yeah.
I was at the fucking ball game with my son. I was gonna blame you anyways. Go do what you want. Go get the book. And he's chewing his gum and stuff like that, and you get the disco, stuff going, And according to IMDb, also when they showed this on TV, he dropped an F-bomb on network television in 1983 because they forgot to cut his line, and one of his F-bombs got out. So that's cool.
That is really cool, actually.
So I'm gonna, this movie must have been a hard thing in 1983 to show on television. Let me tell you.
Absolutely.
I remember one time we were watching ER, and my stepdad goes, "Is that a nipple?" And I was like, "Where?"
Well, actually, if you guys have the disc, they have a featurette that shows the differences between what was on TV and what was, and it's some of the stuff they put on, like when they're talking about the sex stuff in the station of the cop. What they put on in its place made absolutely no friggin' sense whatsoever. Should watch that. But I'm going to say Dennis Franz. I liked him as a cop. He hasn't been picked yet. Angie Dickinson would be my next pick. She was great.
Nice. What about you, Mike? We're in slim pickings, but you are the Dennis Franz of the show. So who do you got to highlight?
I am going to go with Brandon Margaret. He played Cleveland Sam, the second John that we see.
Oh yeah.
When she goes, the one where she gets the $500 from, he opens the door and he's like, "Can I help you?" He's like, "You're Sam from Cleveland, right?" And he's like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Well, I'm your girl," and his face is just like,
It's so nice to meet you.
Like, whoa.
That would be my response, bro.
Come on in.
So,
Like, Nancy Allen just showed up at my door.
Yeah, he was expecting something not quite that good looking. Let me tell you, it's like you got teeth. Come on in.
I mean, that's super high class for 1980s New York or early 80s, late 70s New York. So, but no, I thought that was kind of funny.
Secret archives from your dad or something? What the fuck do you know about?
And then
just watch The Deuce on HBO. You'll see.
And then the another character, I can't remember. I don't know what her name is, but she's probably one of my favorites in the whole entire film. Is the lady at the dinner the lady at lunch?
Oh yeah,
just sitting there eavesdropping.
They split your wiener right down the middle.
Then she's just like,
she's mortified.
Her friend's just like, "You okay? What's going on?"
Her reaction was just like,
imagine you're at Bridge Club. You decide to go have some drinks at lunch with the ladies, right? With the Golden Girls, and then all of a sudden people are like, "Yeah, they split it like a fucking banana and tuck it inside."
"You sure you want to hear about this?" She's like looking at her sad,
unless
like,
they need a vagina, then it goes this way.
And what's funny is the other couple that's behind Nancy Allen, they're just like, "Okay, whatever, cool. Let's just eat my food."
They're cool. They're progressive. They're sex positive, man. That's what I'm saying.
They're like, "Oh, they're talking about transition surgery."
All right, I'll tell you. Okay, I'll go. I'm surprised nobody said Michael Caine because I do think Michael Caine was really good in this movie because he plays. I still don't know after watching this movie like 3 or 4 times whether or not he's aware of Bobby. You know what I'm saying? And I see that conflict internally and externally, and I still don't know if he is aware that Bobby is him, that he's the one that's wanting to,
his own creepy voicemail.
There's a split there that I think he carries well. But my favorite performance, and I don't know the actor's name or the character's name, but it's the cabbie. Because the cabbie's like, "Oh, what's going on there?"
You got data.
"Let me just pull off."
Yeah, then when Angie Dickinson looks at him, he's like, "Oh no, I'm not looking. I'm just reading. What's going on?" Like, I'm like, "Okay, I can."
Like when he hits the killer, then he gets with the door. He goes, "Oh, my," almost like my bad. He looks down.
Yeah, he's like, "No." And he's like, You know, it's like Taxi Cab Confessionals. Y'all saw that shit on HBO just like I did back in the 90s. We were all into, what was that, Taxi Confessionals? What's the name of the show?
Taxi
Cab Confessionals, something like that?
Taxi Cab Confessions.
They interview people on the street and shit.
A lot of people fucking in the back of taxi cabs, bro. I'm telling you, man, it's weird.
I thought that was on Cinemax.
Yeah.
HBO, bro.
That was HBO. And I used to watch Real Sex. I remember I used to be before we move on, I used to be like, Real Sex on HBO. Hell yeah! I'd click onto it and I'd be like, this is boring as fuck. It's a bunch of like
old people
swinging together and shit. Like this, I don't want to see some fucking. I've been to the natatorium. I've been to the public pool. I've seen plenty of old 70-year-old balls dangling down the floor. You know, I don't want to see that anymore, man. I want my balls tight and compact anyway.
Yeah.
If somebody has 60-year-old balls, I take offense to that comment.
Are you out there fucking swimming in broad daylight, showering next to the fucking 10-year-old boys? Anyway, moving on.
That could
That's
be
a
the
weird trend. Why do they make people shower together to swim? Anyway.
Yeah.
I get it, man. Style and structure. I think it's expertly filmed. I think it's got great soft lighting that is just utterly beautiful. I think its use of silence, you know, like in that first act, which by the way, that first act just burns right through. You know what I'm saying? Like it just goes right through that. It like kills the first 30 minutes of the movie to me, like no pun intended. Like it just does that. And it just like it enamors me. That first act is so goddamn perfect. But the use of silence in that first act, in that museum piece where the music is basically carrying the film. I'll talk about that a little bit more, but it's got that giallo Hitchcock influence, obviously heavily inspired by Psycho. Brian De Palma swears up and down he's never seen a giallo before he filmed this movie. Okay, bruh. I just don't see how, but at the same time, we know idea space and how that works in the collective unconscious, so I can kind of buy it. Talking about that first act, I love it. They burn right through it. The second act is pretty solid for me, but the third act is wonky. It's clunky as fuck, bruh. It's like exposition heavy, then dream sequence, right? But the dialogue is great. I think the dialogue is funny, it's witty, and it brings me in. What do you think about the style and structure, Jelani?
I mean, it's all right. It's shot wonderfully. Like you can't deny it. Even the elevator attack, I really like the way it's shot. I like how that blade is up in the air and it's glinting with the blood on it while he has it up in the air. And I love how like Nancy Ellen's like looking in the mirror and she sees the killer in that mirror. And I like how that's shot. I like there's a pull away shot. I forgot where it was. Where I think it's in the house after the detective shoots Michael Caine. He's laying on the ground and they shoot upwards. The shot up. That reminds me of Taxi Driver, by the way. It had that look towards the end. I really thought that was going to be the end of the movie. I thought, and I'm like, y'all could have ended it right there. We didn't need, but they gave you the bird with the crystal plumage exposition at the end, which is off-putting.
It's the Psycho exposition too.
It is Psycho too.
It's just that Hitchcock did that in 2 minutes.
Did it. Yeah, you can just tell me that. Yeah, he's crazy. We put him in Bellevue, but they didn't do that. They like went all the way out and told me everything, and I'm like, yeah, he was a transsexual. He wanted to do this. I wanted to discover that like during the film, and it was like I said before, it's a great premise. Like you have a great premise. Like it could be Jekyll and Hyde, it could be this, but you did it. It just didn't gel well with what the story was trying to tell, no matter what you're trying to tell it. And you're not telling it to where I'm not supposed to guess the killer at the end. Like every Argento film and every Fulci film now I've watched with a giallo nature has given me like, is it them? Is it this person?
Right.
This movie didn't do that for me. I was like, I knew who it was. Like, we don't have that many people in this. You haven't introduced anybody for real. And Michael Caine seems crazy. Like he's a bad psychiatrist. He's a bad psychiatrist immediately. He's like, yeah, sure, I'll fuck you. You know, and like
he said to both of them too.
Yeah, to both of them.
Right. Same line.
Something is wrong with you if you're saying that as a therapist. If you're trying to talk to, and it just hurts me because I'm like, I know this, and I'm like watching the film, and it like you can't do that. And so I knew it was him immediately. It just, and plus he's the biggest star. I'm like, oh, he's clearly the biggest star. Oh, he's either gonna be. I thought he was the main character. Yeah, he's gonna be the hero in this giallo, this reverse American giallo, where it's a man from England who is in America practicing his profession, and then a murder happens, and he's there to solve it with the police.
You're right, because every giallo is like a foreigner coming into Italy. Some shit goes down, and they're like, "Let me investigate this fucking murder."
Let me investigate it. That's what I thought this was. That's what I thought it was gonna be.
And the ineptitude of the police department.
And then his friends.
I love his friends from the beginning. He's like, "We don't got shit.
We don't know nothing.
I'm just gonna pin it on you.
It's gonna be you. We'll put you in there, and we'll be fine."
Well, she got caught with a knife, so that made sense.
Well, I want to literally running.
I want to know how that woman who was the maid was able to see a knife in her hand from that far away.
She saw that glint.
Before she even turned around, she was screaming.
Black
she
man.
Did. But I love how she's like running at her with this fucking razor, and she's like, "It's not me. It's not what you want to see."
I hate this movie for that.
Yeah, she definitely did one of those old time eye shots there. It was bad.
Put the knife down. Why would you touch it to begin with? It fell out. I'd have been like, we'll get the fingerprints off of that knife. Well, he's probably wearing gloves. It was probably Argento wearing gloves and long wig. That could have been it. But it's just, I don't know. There's a lot of clumsy things in this film. A lot of haphazard things that happen for me to watch, to be like, what's going on? And it's too slow for me. I don't like the Angie Dickinson scene. I mean, I don't mind the scene for them going to the museum, but it made no sense. Like, kill her in the museum. If you're gonna do all this shit, kill her in the museum.
There was no sound in that scene. It was 9 minutes. That seems very reminiscent of what he did in The Untouchables with the baby carriage going down the steps.
That's right. He did Untouchables.
That was way better. Yeah, he did.
It was way better.
I was kind of shocked this was De Palma.
It's Brian. I can't believe it's Brian De Palma.
But it was still in and out of the rooms. He was zigzagging, seeing the guy, not seeing the guy.
I love that though.
It was a good shot. Though. I like that shot. I like that scene.
I'm cat and mousing, and it's fine. I mean, people will like it. It's just I didn't. I walked into it, and I'm just like, this is my first time seeing it. I don't want to watch it again. I already know the twist. It's just and knowing the twist, but knowing that Michael Caine was the killer like 30 minutes in, like 10 minutes after she was killed, I was like, that's Michael Caine. Like, it even looked like Michael Caine, kind of. I know it was like probably a stunt double or something, but I was like,
hold on, you didn't watch till the end of the credits?
No,
at the end of the credits, it was those 4 guys from the subway. They found them.
I knew it. They're like, surprise!
You gotta stay through the end scenes, my friend.
And then one of them removes his mask and it's fucking Franklin Jella's Skeletor, and we're like, what?
you gotta stay through the end credit sequence.
You said something about the Avengers Initiative.
Yeah. Bro, speaking of the Avengers Initiative, what do you think about the style instruction?
Well, I thought this movie's all right. It's like style and structure wise. I'm not a huge fan of the thriller genre, to be honest. Like I don't really care about one way or the other, like, but I don't know. It just didn't catch my interest too much. Like I didn't hate, like I wasn't bored per se, but I wasn't as into it as I would like, probably a different movie. But it does look very nice. It's shot very well, and I think all the acting is great. And I think it's like just the very that kind of trope in the 80s of the transsexual killer or the split personality killer. It's just it just doesn't hit anymore. When it's like when you know more about how things really work in that regard, like those old kind of ideas just seem like very kind of lame and overall it doesn't, like, I wouldn't say it like breaks the movie, but it certainly doesn't help, I don't think.
I feel almost bad that like you're saying the same thing tonight that you said almost last week with Tenebrae, and I just want you to know that Tenebrae is way better than this movie, man. Like,
Yeah,
I'd say so.
Music.
you
way
know,
better.
I feel like March Madness is really letting Brooks down this year. Just wait till Itchy the Killer, bruh. We're gonna break you on Itchy the Killer. Anyway, Steph, Missing Link himself. What do you think about style and structure of this film?
You said it best. I think in general, in terms of how I feel about it, like the first act for me was super engaging. Second act, it wasn't bad, but by the third act, I feel like it was kind of like a sloppy ending. So I'm big on endings, but great composition and camera work throughout the entire thing. Can't take that away from it. But yeah,
For sure.
keep it simple.
What about you, Scarpad? Talking about keeping it simple.
Yeah, I'm going to say the same thing. I mean, the first 3/4 of this movie, I think with all those scenes with the he did in the museum and the elevator, it was really good. But man, that third quarter is just so bad. I mean, you really couldn't almost tell what was going on when the cops busted in to shoot Michael Caine. Is he dead? He's alive? I can't even see the guy on the floor. It's like it was a shot. Like almost two different people shot this movie. Somebody came in and just finished it up for Brian De Palma. That's why I feel about the third quarter. It was just that bad. And they just decided, hey, let's end this with a dream sequence just because the beginning had it. And we don't know what else to do with it. So we'll just bookend it. Yeah, so I like 3/4 of it. I wouldn't think it's one of his best movies, but I think it really falls down the third act. Yeah, third act is bad.
All right. Speaking of a bad third act, Mike, what do you think about the style and structure of this film?
Man, I really like how I like the bookend. I like how it starts off as a fantasy, then moves slowly through and turns into a nightmare at the very end. So it's got a nice balance, and it's an even flow. Yeah, it gets a little confusing, but I think that's kind of the whole point of the end, because it's just like who's the guy who grabbed the kid? Like, who is that? What's going on? Like, and all of a sudden, and then it's a little. I think it's supposed to play into your emotions, and at the time, and like thinking back to like 1980 cinema versus 2020s cinema, like that's kind of. It's one of those like, oh wow, it's very confusing. It's clustery. Like it's supposed to just spin you out to make you just that whole thrill and suspense of what it was supposed to be. Also, I mean, I was looking up at somebody had mentioned Hitchcock, and I was just like, when did Hitchcock die? And he died in 1980. Just like
Wow.
4 months. It was like March, and then this movie came out in July. So it's essentially De Palma just paying homage to him in a way. So, I mean, I don't know. It's fine. Like, there's a lot of the cinematography I thought was cool. A lot of the split shots, a lot of the choices.
Those double focus shots are amazing in this movie, man.
So I thought that was fun, just to watch, to see how they do that, and to study it. And it's just because it's like, and it's blending two different. You're filming one and filming two, and then blending it over to make it for the third piece of film. So it's something it's trick photography, and it's not easy to do, but it's easy to do when you got the right equipment, but it's still, a lot of that was still pushing the edge and the envelope. I mean, and I know the whole thing, the giallo is kind of it's a trope, but I mean, it is what it is. So I don't know. I think it's still solid.
Orson Welles was able to do full deep focus shots and capture everything in one. And that's something that was lost at this point. You're right. They had to do trickery to get those kind of shots. They have to film it twice and then composite it together, right? And it still looks really good. It doesn't look super bad or fake, right? But it still, even Brian De Palma couldn't do what Orson Welles did. And I think that's an important thing to say. All right. The music in this film is by Pino Donaggio. We talked about his music on The Black Cat, Fulci. On Saturday, we talked about his music on Two Evil Eyes. We're talking about it here. I love the music. It's romantic, yet it has this faint, unsettling nature to it. And at times it honestly carries the movie. No pun intended. That it carries the movie. Get it? Brian De Palma did carry. But I like the music. It's got that romantic kind of swell. It's got your typical Berman, like Hitchcockian kind of vibes to it, right? That's intentional. And I think the music is one of the absolute best parts of this film. Now, would I have preferred like a synthy 80s electronic score? Of course. But it wouldn't have fit what he was trying to do. And yes, this movie is 100%. Brian De Palma himself goes, "Oh, you mean my Hitchcock years?" Like the years where I just kept ripping off Alfred Hitchcock, right? But the music's a part of that. I think the music's beautiful for what it is. What do you think about the music, Jelaine? By Pino Grigio, DiGiorno.
Yeah, that guy.
An Italian man. Get it?
He's Italian.
This is an Italian theme to horror to March Madness, y'all. You get it? I thought about this. Anyway.
I'm doing my hand. Yeah. Yeah, it's fine, but it needs way more Goblin. I think this really like would have been a great. It needed some kind of kick for me. It didn't really have it. I mean, yes, it was romantic and haunting at the same time. It's great music. It sounds fantastic. It's shot beautifully. It's just I didn't like that story. And all between it, like it distracted me. Like even the silence of the chase didn't really get me. And I was more enthralled with the music as opposed to the no music with the chase. I don't know what it was. It just didn't feel right to me. Yeah, but it needed way more Goblin. That's all I got to say about that.
Speaking of Goblin, Brooks is haunted by goblins. What did you think about the music in this film by Pino Grigio DiGiorno? It's Pino Demont. Wait, what's his name? I forgot his name now. Go ahead.
Tutti Frutti on Rudy.
His name is Tutti Frutti on Rudy. Tutti Frutti, Fresh and Rudy. Brooks, what did you think about the music?
I liked it. It reminded me of like the openings to like old daytime drama, like soap opera styles in the day, like As the World Turns, or it has that kind of like
I thought you were on the X-Men theme at first, man. You were like,
is that The Young and the Restless or As the World Turns?
Days of Our Lives.
Days of Our Lives.
Days of Our Lives. Yes, like Sands Through the Hourglass.
Scarpad was there.
Scarpad's got like 328 volumes of Days of Our Lives on Blu-ray.
I do not.
But all recorded on.
I did watch it when I was a kid.
I watched it in college. I loved it.
Yeah, I think it kind of fits because this movie kind of does feel like a big screen soap opera in a lot of ways to me, but with like a lot like obviously a lot less reserved, more more titties and fucking and shit. So I think it fits.
Verno, I'm not going to share that comment on the screen, but that's actually kind of fucking funny. Steph, what you think about the music in this one?
I'm going to piggyback off what Brooks said. I think it fit. It's not anything that kind of jumped out at me, but, it fit the thriller parts when it needed, and it was erotic when it needed to be. And that was kind of like the tone of that movie. So I think it was very competent.
Oh, yeah. Atmospheric even?
Yeah, atmospheric, some would say.
Yeah. I just want to know whose show ends at 9:00 Central, where we always get an influx of people after our first hour. Like, what were y'all doing? We've been having a great conversation. Anyway, Scarpad, what do you think about the music by Pino Grigio?
I liked it. I mean, I like the Black Hat better, but I thought it was good. I thought it fit, but I thought it really only fit the portion of the movie and Angie Dickinson's story. Once she was gone, I don't really think it fit anymore because her story was trying to find love and romance and getting venereal disease and losing a glove. She lost her glove.
Petey will do that.
I wrote down here. I said, what did I say? It said, bad day, lost her glove, her wedding ring, and got VD, and then got slapped.
Yeah, that's a bad day.
Yeah.
That's a bad day. So once she was out of the story, I didn't really think the music fit as much because it fit her, but she was only in first 15. I liked it. It was okay. But
Because it was like Pino was like, wait a
but
second.
I am
that's
glad
not
that
whole
the
movie?
I'm glad that
That's all I got.
I'm glad that the museum scene didn't have music over it, because it didn't. That I think was the best scene in the movie. I don't know why I picked that.
Word. I just love the using different planes visually and moving it, and this is something De Palma works with. Is this kind of it almost makes it dreamlike in a way.
Yeah.
And surely he's never seen an Argento film. What the fuck, Brian? You're lying to us.
Don't call him Shirley.
Bullshit. Brian is Brian De Palma's actual name. Anyway, Mike, what do you think about the music in this film?
I really like that there was no music in the museum. And was there any music on the train scene also?
No, I don't think so. Just the sound.
I don't believe so. Yeah.
What they play?
I noticed there was a lot of times where they didn't use
I
music.
heard Super Freak.
Like it wasn't. They didn't use the music, which makes it more. It catches you. It draws you in, and when the music does hit, that's when that's your. It gives you a release or a let go, or breaks the suspense, cuts the tension. So I think in those two similar chase scenes, not similar, but essentially two chase scenes, they just no music and let the natural environment play out.
Yeah, I like the use of silence, as I mentioned, right? Like I actually really like that with the visuals, and it makes it feel ethereal in a way at times, where the music accentuates that, and then the silence does as well. So just as important as the music is the moments where they choose not to use that music.
And that's really cool. And a lot of people don't they don't do that. Like you don't really see it that much where it's like, oh, we're not going to use music. And so it's funny whenever somebody doesn't use music now to for something to cut the tension. It's just like, oh, they look what they did. They're so amazing. They didn't use the music, and it was just kind of like, well, more people. I just don't think. I think using music sometimes is an easy way out. Like, oh, let's just add some music right here and let's move the film forward. And it's just like, well, you could have really made this scene a lot better and more difficult, and without the music. So
they're like, we paid for John Williams, motherfucker.
Well, in some movies, the music they want to influence how people feel about what's going on, but sometimes they really try to push it and make people feel that way instead of letting them feel the way they feel.
Yeah, good point. I think this music and the use and the non-use of this music does that. It wants you to feel, but doesn't try to. It's not one of those things where it's like, bam. You know what I'm saying? Like, I hate shit like that. Like, bro, you didn't scare me, really. You just made a loud noise, okay?
Or in a comedy movie when they have whimsical music to make you feel like it's funny. Instead of being funny.
Exactly. Speaking of being funny, it's time for the heavier part of the conversation tonight. What is this movie trying to say? What is it saying to you, Jelani? What's the theme?
I guess identity and what it is to know yourself, to not know self be true. And of course that can be said for Michael Caine, who is a murderer, who just doesn't know he's a murderer, but and he goes under the guise of Bobby, and it's very strange because they're like real life cases of things like this happening though. There was this guy that I watched Forensic Files. It's like one of my jams. It's one of my white noise when I go to bed sometimes, because they play it like endlessly at the end of headline news. But they had a case where this man dressed up as a woman, and he killed a girl that was like a friend of he was a handyman in their house or something like that, and killed her and did all this stuff. And then they had another Forensic Files like a few times later where the same guy, he just got caught killing this other girl, and he had killed like the family's another family's youngest daughter like a few years prior to that. So they're and he had dual personalities. He was this regular Jim the Handyman, and then he was also this other person. He wore dresses and he wore wigs. And the way he was caught was with the woman on the bed. They found synthetic blonde hairs, and they matched those hairs to a wig that he had. and that he had stored. I'm just saying that to say this: it does happen. It is a real thing, and it's that identity. It's what you believe it is, and what actually is. And he's not able to differentiate between the two, and it's kind of pulling him in two different directions. Now, like I said, it's a good premise, but it was executed poorly for me. So
Word. Gotcha. What about you, Brooks? What's this movie, Dressed to Kill, speaking to you?
I think a lot has to do with like people's roles in society and how that affects how they're treated. Like especially with the main character who is you find out she is a sex worker, and that like that changes how the cops treat her, and and at the same time you have Michael Caine who's seen his role as like a professional. He's an educated man, but at the same time he's also a crazed murderer apparently, and it's like the idea that we expect people to act a certain way, and I think the kind of the crew on the like the subway guys too are kind of a part of that as well. We have like an expectation of like of people we don't even know. Like we make assumptions about what they are, or like how we perceive that they would act in a certain situation, and like in that case it just didn't make a whole lot of sense, because it start like that whole thing has started out they're like, we want you to go away, and then all of a sudden like they're surrounding her, and then they're chasing her, and it's like what are you guys trying to say here, man? Like, but yeah, it's
well, there is the racist connotation, but there's also the idea, and here's the thing, they didn't have to be a black gang or some black punks, you know what I'm saying? But the idea of a woman's fear just trying to catch a subway, right? Like so once again, there's intent there that means something, but it's very clunky because then there's a racist connotation to it, bro. Like, so like, yeah,
it's
you're
a
right
good premise. It's a good
didn't seem to be bothered at first.
Yeah, like women living, they're not bothered, but it just goes to show, like, it's just, yeah, like women, when they're in public by themselves, they have to have an element of fear, right? But it doesn't have to be fear of the black man. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, and I get that the real killer in this movie is a white dude or a white woman, but like, it's clunky.
I think you might be overanalyzing it. It was the 80s. They were always scary black people.
We're overanalyzing it because it's 2023. That's what we do nowadays, man.
I know, but I'm just saying
it was PCP movie night.
It was racist.
Arpad, I'm condescending to you right now. Come on.
I would have thought it was racist if I watched it in 1980. That's how messed up that was. I was like, wow, really? All of us? And then the cops like, I don't believe you. And
I did love it though when that dude's like, this bitch is bothering me.
Bothered me. And like,
the police
the best delivery in the whole line.
It's pretty on the mark though.
Yeah, because it's the police. Fuck the police.
It's like the cop. You go to the cops is like, we ain't gonna do nothing really.
If we can agree on one thing with Brian De Palma,
was honest though.
If we can agree with one thing with Brian De Palma, it's that police can be shit sometimes. All right. Speaking of police being shit, Steph in a former
shitter for life
was a shitter for life. So why don't you tell us what you think? That was a way better segue than what I was like. What do you think about the theme, man? What's it trying to say to you?
I think it's trying to speak on repression in so many ways, but it kind of ties into, maybe it doesn't come across because, like I said earlier, Brian De Palma wasn't nuanced enough on the subject matter to really get it across. But lady from the beginning that gets killed, sets the whole thing off, was sexually repressed. Michael Caine was sexually repressed in so many ways. They couldn't be who they wanted to be. And I guess, unfortunately, De Palma vilified that aspect. But the message of that is eventually when people are repressed enough, they eventually fight back, or there's they push back. Just like let people be who they are, Well, it's not hurting anybody.
It's interesting to see somebody who has a repressed sexuality become a victim, somebody with a repressed sexuality become a murderer, and then somebody with a very open sexuality be the survivor. That's actually
Yeah.
kind of cool, right? With Nancy Allen's character of Liz, right? That's
Yeah.
an interesting dynamic there. I wonder if that's intentional. Probably not. It's probably just because he's like, you're my wife.
You're gonna survive
It's a
this movie.
dream. It's a dream. Because any other dude would be like the throat slash, but Nancy Allen at the movie cuts, it's over, and we're like, bruh. And then they Bob Newhart us, and it's like it's a dream the whole time. What? That's weird.
I think I would like the movie ended on if it was real, if it really happened. I don't know.
I think I would have liked it a little bit better than too, but at the same time, it's giving us that juxtaposition of two people with repressed sexualities. It doesn't end well for them. One person with an open sexuality, they live.
But she was scarred
Yeah,
with that dream,
scarred.
you know. She didn't...
Well, you can't be open and not wind up scarred, right? But do those scars?
But the 14-year-old kid came
That's
in and
true,
consoled her at the end, so it was okay.
I think he's at least
17, 18.
14, 17. We're splitting hairs now.
It's Steve Jobs, man. Let's be honest, okay? It's Steve Jobs. That's who it is.
Dude, like invented a circuit or some shit.
And this. It's a Peter. Go play with your Peter. I love that moment when he's like, his mom's like, go play with your Peter. I'm like, no, Mom, I'm not playing with my Peter.
Mom, not.
So yeah, I'm practicing my guitar. Anyway, really good points, Steph. I really like that. Everybody's making good points so far. I'm really proud of everybody here. So Scarpad, make me proud, bro. What's this movie trying to say?
That, well, basically all three characters, the main characters of this movie, were all pretty much the same. They were all looking for each other, trying to find themselves. Angie Dickinson was trying to find it by having a better sex life and a relationship with a husband and exploring her sexuality. Nancy Allen was trying to go beyond being a prostitute by doing the stock trades, getting wealthy, and kind of manipulating her life so that it was more. And then, of course, Michael Caine was confused about his sexuality and also batshit crazy, and he didn't understand himself. So all three of them didn't understand themselves. The only people that understood themselves in this movie was, of course, the kid who had one idea is to go home and build his Peter, pull his Peter, build it, whatever he's going to do.
I'm going to pull and build it because that's what I saw on a website.
Then his friends who
build it.
Then his friends who had a job to do and is going to do it the only way he knows how.
I'm going to pin this on you. Yeah.
Do what you got to do. And those four guys in the subway that didn't want to mess up their territory. So I don't know. It just means they were trying to find themselves with different degrees of success and violence.
Nice. Well put. You know, you can wait on the train up there.
Yeah.
You know, so like, what you trying to get something? Because if not, like you're putting me in danger by you being here. And that's a realism of a black man in the subway in 1980 in New York, right? Like a white woman's around him, all of a sudden they're like, what's going on here? Right. And there's attention. Right. Well, I'm not justifying that. I'm just saying some really good points. Mike, what's this movie saying to you?
If you're going to cheat on somebody, make sure you wear rubber. I mean,
don't get VD.
Yeah.
We'll give it.
That was like an urban myth that came to life in the film. I laughed so hard when I saw that, by the way. That was the only scene where I was like, oh, God! You got VD!
I laughed at the subway scene when they chased her, but then they got spooked by the dude. Like, the 5 dudes were like, oh, shit, we got to get out of here. You see the one dude. But.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Wear rubber, but this is years before Left Eye from TLC. This is years before Magic Johnson and Arsenio Hall had an intense conversation with my young ass, which, scared me from sex for a long time. But I was young, so it was probably wise. Nobody needs to have sex when they're like 10. But the Chevy Chase has a line in Community where he's talking about the 80s, and he was just like, having sex in the 80s was like shaking hands until AIDS happened. And then it was one of those just kind of like, it was, and just a lot of the movies that we do watch look at, like, at the 70s and 80s, like, look at all the, like, nobody uses protection. It's always like, let's just go crazy. So. So you pick out a message of safe sex. Okay, I like that.
Well, there's I mean
no one used it in the
at-
80s and 90s. They just cut it out of the movie is what they did.
yeah. It's I don't know, like this, looking at this movie from like an 80s point of view versus a 2000s point of view, and there's just so much that can be said, and it was just even back then. I mean, the movie still got flack for some of the things that it did, but then it's one of the. I was reading an article that was talking about a review from when it came out, and the reviewer was like, "This is one of the most violent movies I've ever seen." And you look at it, and you're like, "This movie's not that violent."
Like, bro, you ain't seen the shit I've seen.
I know, and
It's a Hostel Part 2, motherfucker.
I know, and it's just like, but it's just like, but you have to remember, like, at a certain time period, like this movie was super violent, super sexual, and it was just kind of pushing a lot of boundaries.
It was labeled very misogynistic when it first came out.
It was rated X too. They had to fight to get on it. Cut some stuff.
Yeah, they had to cut a bunch of stuff out. I think it was like a minute worth of stuff. Of all the sexual stuff to get it down to an R from an X. So,
meanwhile, Videodrome just slipping on through. God damn it, just slipping on through, giving me nightmares and shit. Dressed to Kill didn't give me nightmares. Videodrome did. Where were you, MPAA? Where the fuck were you? All right, for me, I think the main theme that Brian De Palma is actually trying to explore is duality. I think he realized that transgendered people were real for the first time in his life, and his natural reaction was Jekyll and Hyde. He wanted to explore that cinematically. So that's why I think there are some attempts to explore some themes that he's just not ready for yet. And that also includes sexual liberation for women, right? He's got the sex worker who's owning it, but he's also got the repressed housewife who gets punished for exploring those desires, right? So like there's conflicting messaging there, but I don't think it was there necessarily at the time, but it is today. But there is the theme of like the danger of not self-actualizing. That's what I pick up. That's what I choose. And I could read into all the problematic stuff going on. I could read into that today, how it views today. But to me today, it's telling me the danger of not self-actualizing. Self-actualizing. It's the danger of not becoming. It would be, I cannot imagine what it's like to feel like I'm in the wrong body. Right? And if you don't deal with that, like, the conflict that arises within. Brian De Palma is not trying to say this in this movie, but that's what I'm picking up out of it. The only reason why there's a dangerous complex in Michael Caine's character is because Michael Caine's character is not being able to self-actualize. And it doesn't matter if it's like switching gender, feeling like you're a woman in a man's body or a man in a woman's body, or that you're not a man or a woman. You're just a person. Those are valid things that we didn't understand back in 1980. This is before I was born. I was born in 81. You know what I'm saying? But like, we understand these things now. And when I watch this film, what I pull out of it, and I do believe, here's a big fucking theme about that I want to talk about. There's a lot of stuff going on. I don't believe in censorship at all. I do not think it's wise for us to see art in the past that was problematic and then try to erase that. We have to remember that, because art is a reflection and a representation of what society, culture, and people think about any individual subject or idea, or just in general. It's a snapshot. Dressed to Kill is a snapshot of what we thought about trans people in 1980. It was wrong. It wasn't well balanced. It wasn't understood. It's still not understood by a lot of people. But we don't need to erase our history of progression into ideas. Do you get what I'm saying? art is here to reflect a moment and a feeling and a thought. And like, for instance, there's some racist ass cartoons from back in the fucking day, right? Do we need to act like that doesn't exist? No. Because then when we forget our past, we're in danger of repeating it more, if that makes sense, right? We have to remember our misguided attempts at understanding so that our future attempts at understanding can be better. So our future attempts of exploring these themes, Steph, right, can be a little bit more nuanced so that we can take a little bit more time and care and thought to really think about it beyond the shock value of something. But I do believe, me as a modern person in 2023, I look at this is about when there's who you're supposed to be within and you're not allowing that because of societal pressure or the pressure from your own, like, or your familial pressure, you know, like we have to be who we are inside. We have to self-actualize. And if we don't, I'm not saying we're going to start killing people, but we'll start hurting people. We'll hurt ourselves. We'll wind up killing ourselves. We have to be the authentic person inside. We have to reach and attain our higher selves, however that comes out, regardless of pressure from family, friends, society. It doesn't matter. Be who you fucking are. Live your truth, right? And if you don't, you wind up in a dream fucking sequence that just bullshits the whole end of the movie. All right, time to go to the rating of the film. Out of 5 possible you digs, you out there in the chat, what do you give this film? Jelani, kick us off.
All right. So I did not like this film. I still don't like it. It ages poorly, but at the same time, I mean, it did happen. So yes, we gotta let some stuff go. So I mean, the music's fine. It's shot well, but it's a poor premise that's executed poorly on a lot of levels. That third act like kills it. It's basically trash. For me, I cannot stand it. So I mean, I won't watch this movie again. I don't think. I don't have like a reason to. That's just me though. So I just did not like this film. So I'll give it like you get a 2. You get 2 you digs for me.
2 you digs. Okay.
Because I mean, even this is the worst part. And if you've noticed, I didn't really mention it. The nude scenes and all that stuff, it didn't do anything for me. Like in the Argento film,
here, bro. I was like sweating. I was like,
in the nudes, it just didn't get me. I didn't get it. There are a lot of slasher flicks where you see, ooh, titties, and it's just there and it's exciting. And you're like, wow, but they started the movie off with it and it looked awkward and you knew it wasn't Angie Dickinson, and the whole time I was just like, this is weird. Why would you start your movie like a weird dream sequence where it's like this? It just didn't feel right to me. And then the end is just, it bookends how bad I think this movie is. I think it bookends how, like, you start with the dream and it's awkward and you don't really, and it's nudity, but it's but then you get the end where it's like Michael Caine strangles a girl and undresses her and then like kills Nancy Allen in the shower while she's naked. It felt off-putting, not like a giallo where it's like, ooh, wow, she's getting slashed up, but she's falling out. It's just, I don't know what it was. It didn't feel, not the murder wasn't beautiful murder.
I feel the same way about Battleground, man.
It wasn't horrible murder. It just didn't pull me in. So and he was ripping off giallo, which is like a crime against nature. For an American actor who didn't get a reference from it, but also used Hitchcock elements. He is very hacky. Brian De Palma is very hacky in his younger years. He gets better, but this is kind of hackish for me. So yeah, this is a 2. I can't do it. That's me. That's me though.
I can dig that you think this is a 2, but to call him a hack in his early career when he did Carrie is kind of fucking pissing me off. But it's all right. We'll move on. Brooks, What do you think? Out of 5, what do you give this one?
I give it a 3. Like, it's all. It was all right, you know. But I think it could have been better. You know, it's a little like the you know, I think the tropes hurt it a lot, you know. But it still is. It's a nice looking movie. I really like the soundtrack. Like, I would consider watching this one again, giving it another chance. But as it stands, I'd say it's pretty middle of the road for me. So, Trey.
All right. Middle of the road. It just takes some time, little girl. You're in the middle of the anyway. Link,
Jimmy
what do
ate
you
the
think
world.
about this one?
I'm right there with Brooks. I think this was a 3. It had some interesting ideas that you just didn't explore or put enough thought into. But it was a great looking film. It had some really good like we've said it earlier, someone said it, but that first act was, like you said, it burns right through it. It just kind of falls apart at the end, unfortunately. But it was an interesting one. So I'll give it a 3. I was kind of shocked, like I said earlier, that when I found out it was by Brian De Palma. I was like, huh. But yeah, I'll give it a 3. I could watch this again as well.
Say hello to my little friend, right? Yeah, that guy.
You want to play right?
What about you, Scarface?
Yeah, I mean, I was so used to Scarface, so.
Yeah, speaking of Scarface, what about Scarpad, bro? What do you think about this one? Out of 5 you digs, what do you give it?
Well, if it was on DHS, obviously 2.69, but I was told we can't do that here because of the whole elevated horror thing.
Well, you can always do a 0.69. You just can't do a 0.25 or something.
But I'm going to round up. I'm going to give it a 2. No, a 3, because I went to a 3. Okay, it's poor Giallo. It's kind of middle of the road Hitchcock, but I give him a 3 for making attempts. And he did shoot some really good looking scenes in the movie, set pieces. It's just that the third act was terrible. But if anybody really wants to see a movie with a real naked Angie Dickinson, I suggest you watch and dig up 1974's Big Bad Mama, where she plays a gun moll being railed by the great William Shatner from behind.
Interesting.
A very good movie, and you get to see it all there. So, Big Bad Mama.
Yeah, all right. I feel like I shouldn't trust you on that, but all right.
You should do Big Bad Mama someday, Hannah.
Maybe somewhere far down the road. We'll see what happens. Mike, what about you? Out of 5 you digs, what do you give Dress to Kill?
The Big Bad Mama sounds like a DHS show right there. I give it a 4. Well, I mean, he's done non-horror movies on his show before, so a gangster movie wouldn't surprise me. But no, I give it a 4. I know you guys didn't like the way that it opened, but it's like just thinking about it now and of just like how it opened and how it ended and it bookends and there's a story in between. The cinematography, the use of music, the use of silence. I can forgive a little bit of it. But then again, I think he had a certain thing in a direction that he was going for and a certain look. And I think he pulled it off. And I just don't think that a lot of people like the way that it went. And because I said it's everything is kind of, it's a little overdone. A lot of it's supposed to be jarring. Like everything is,
Right.
It's just supposed to be shocking. But then again, it's just like you're looking at a 1980 movies with 2020 eyes. And so it's just like you got to go back and look and think about like, okay, what did he do that was different than like what we would do today and how we would do it? And everybody wants to put their own twist on it, and like their signature shots, their signature looks, their sounds, their like how their films look. I mean, and everybody has it, and like with Hitchcock just recently dying. It's just him paying like an homage to it in a way. And it's just like, it's not a, I'm watching a De Palma film. I'm not watching a Hitchcock film. If I wanted to watch a Hitchcock film, I'd watch it. Like everybody does it for their own reason. And Jelani, if you think this movie's a 2, I would love to see what your opinion of Snake Eyes is.
Snake Eyes is a movie?
Snake Eyes is a bullshit. You talking about? Wait.
You talking about
Nicolas
Nicolas
Cage
Cage?
or the G.I. Joe one?
I hate that movie.
Nicolas Cage.
I hate that movie. I saw it in the theater. I worked at the theater when it came out. I hate that movie.
What about Mission to Mars? Like you're saying that
Garbage.
This
Hot
movie
garbage.
is worse. So what is this movie worse than Mission to Mars and Snake Eyes, or is it better?
Why are we making those comparisons? That's so fucking weird.
Why?
Well, it's just
Mission
early
to
career,
Mars?
later career.
What the crack? De Palma did Mission to Mars.
Yeah.
I think he did, yeah.
Oh, really? Okay, never
Yeah.
mind.
That wasn't a horrible movie.
Wow, he's hacky in the
Mission Impossible, Snake Eyes, and then
Mission
Yeah,
Impossible.
the first Mission Impossible.
Mission
The first
Impossible.
Mission Impossible? I don't
I think
like
you said
the first
Mission to
Mission
Mars,
Impossible.
man.
Yeah, that was
Mission to
Mission to
Mars.
Mars.
Yeah,
I saw
Mission
Mission
Impossible,
Impossible.
Snake Eyes, Mission to Mars, and then he
I saw
did.
Mission Impossible.
All three of those movies suck,
Yeah,
bro.
Mission
all
Impossible
suck.
was
Then he
terrible.
did. Then he
They
did.
suck.
Then he did Femme Fatale with Antonio Banderas and Rebecca Romaine Stamos.
Jesus, you're not saving it. You're not
And then he
saving
did-
De Palma. It
And
sounds
then
like
he
he's
did.
lying.
And then he did the Black Dahlia.
Two Gun Pedro has a good comment.
I know, but I'm saying it's like his early stuff was better than his later stuff.
Alice, Sweet Alice was a better American genre than this was, and it was.
All right. Well, all right. For me,
Jeez. Jesus. God, De
my
Palma's
problem with this
head?
movie
Oh my
is
God.
slightly. Listen, okay. My problem with this movie is not the cast. It's not the style. It's not the music. It's a little bit of the structure. I have some structural issues, and I have some thematic issues. But I can pull something out of it that I think is profound to me personally. So I'm going 4. If this movie was more structurally and thematically sound, it'd be a fucking 5 you digs for me. So I'm knocking it down to a 4 because it loses a bit on the theme. It loses a bit on the structure, but I'm going to go 4 because I do think it's brilliantly shot. Technically a very solid film. So I'm going to go 4, and that's me. So a 4 from me and Mike, a 3 from Scarpad, Link, and Brooks, and a 2 from Jelani for a PCP average of 3.069 dudes, because the Brian De Palma film always gets a 0.69. Anyway,
It had pubes in it.
it did have pubes. That concludes. Thank you for pointing that out. Doing your research. That concludes our look at Dress to Kill. But don't worry, March Madness continues Thursday, actually, where we're doing a Scream 6 spoiler review on DHS, I believe. So, Mike, I need a thumbnail for that. And if we don't do it on DHS, we're doing it here. So I might need an alternate thumbnail to put for PCP movie night. But we're doing Scream 6 Thursday night. That's going to be fun. But Saturday night on Dylan's Horror Show, we're talking about Triangle, which is a movie that none of us have ever seen except for Two Gun Pedro. So, bruh, we're counting on you to save DHS for March Madness. Though we do know we got American Psycho coming up, so that's cool. But next week for March Madness here on PCP, we're talking about Lucio Fulci's masterpiece, Don't Torture a Duckling. And I believe I'm the only person on the panel who have ever seen this goddamn movie. I'm very excited to talk about that. So, Jelani, why don't you tell us, first of all, thank you for being here. Final thoughts. What's coming up? What's going on?
Yeah, man. Well, Brooks and I, Go Figure Reviews, had a guest and did a couple videos together. And the one that we had come out this week was the Too Bad Masterverse figure. Hope you guys are checking those out. Please like, share, and subscribe. We lost some of our viewership. It's weird, but it's all good. We're steadily moving along. And then this week we'll do the Sunman video with certain Robbie Billups, and we're gonna try to see if we can, determine if that Sunman figure is worth anything. But we really like
Spoilers. It is. Spoilers.
Yeah,
it is. It's all right.
It's quite fire.
Last night I opened up my Digitino, everybody.
Nice.
Oh, no.
Nice. He glows in the dark.
With the rat tail. Right
Yeah.
there, yeah. With the rat tail.
He's clean.
I had one of those.
Can we get
But
somebody
yeah.
to throw out a two-gun? Can you throw out a link to Go Figure Reviews, please?
Yes, guys. Thank you so much for watching. The ones that are still watching. Thank you much. And only 2 dislikes on the Too Bad video, which is weird. I was like, all right. Why every
It should
time we get
always be
Rocky? Yeah, should always
Too,
be
too bad. Too bad that you got 2 dislikes. All you got?
That's
Fuck
it.
you. Anyway,
That's it.
Brooks, thank you for being here. Final thoughts?
Well, just one piece of advice: never trust a therapist who says he'd fuck you.
That's
Exactly.
true. And Verno says, can't wait for Brooks to hate Don't Torture a Duckling.
It'll be like the opposite. I'm like, oh, this is the best movie ever.
Brooks gonna be like, I fucking hate March Madness. All right, Steph, thank you for being here. Final thoughts?
Do I find you all attractive? Yes.
Oh, thanks.
Nice. I thought you were about to say, but I care too much about my personal relationship to jeopardize it. But Steph's
That's
like,
where
nah.
me and Michael Caine differ.
I'm married. I'm married.
I think Steph has more in line with Nancy Allen in this fucking movie. I don't know. I'd pay for it, man. That's all I'm trying to say. Scarpad.
Throw a couple
Thank you for
dollars.
being here. You got your own show, man.
Thank
What
you
else
for
out?
having me. And if it's Tony Soprano's therapist, yes, please. Anyways, yeah, Monday night we'll be doing Total Recall, the original with Arnie Schwarzenegger. So check it out.
Oh yeah.
It's a great movie based on a Philip K. Dick story.
This
which
is
I love.
March vacations go bad in sci-fi, and then we're doing Jurassic Park at the end of the month.
So you got Westworld, you got Jurassic Park, you got Total Recall. You're right. Vacation's gone bad,
And
bro.
Infinity Pool. So there we
Which
go.
I haven't seen that one. So
It was a vacation. It went bad.
they went into the Infinity Pool and they never came out again, right?
Son of Cronenberg hit it out of the park. Let me tell you.
I just love how Scarpad's willing to not spoil Infinity Pool for me, but he's been trying to talk about Scream 6 all fucking week long.
Hopefully, maybe Thursday I'll talk about it.
All right, Mike, thank you for being here, man. Final thoughts?
I would really like to see what y'all think. I mean, well, I don't know. Mainly Robbie. It kind of Brooks. I already know what Jelani's going to say. Between this and Don't Torture a Duckling. I just like to see,
Did you watch that one?
Maybe. So
All right. It's
I
gonna
don't
be
know. Like the
I still want it to suck. As long as it doesn't suck, I'll watch it. Let's put it like that.
I don't know.
It better not suck. It better not fake out me.
Well, I mean, I didn't think this movie sucked, but you thought it did. But like, I just want to see what y'all got to say. So
I fucking love Don't Torture a Duckling. Don't fuck with me, bro. That's 1972 Fulci, bro. That's like pre-zombie Fulci, man. And I don't think any of these guys have seen it, man. I'm excited.
I haven't seen it.
I don't know. Maybe tomorrow at work, I'll get your opinion. I can get you to get your opinion on it. So
Does it take place in Italy or in the States? I haven't seen it. Does it
I haven't
take
seen
place
it
in
in
this
15
country?
years, bro, so I don't remember. I haven't seen
I
it
think he knows what the states
I
are.
haven't seen it in 5 years since like the year 2003.
All right.
But, yeah.
I'll go watch.
I'm excited for it, man. I really am. I got the Arrow release, and I do got the Criterion edition of Dress to Kill.
Nice.
It is one of the first movies to tackle this subject. Maybe not perfectly, not at all perfectly, but it does. I don't know. I still kind of like it. I'm glad we had rural Italy. Thank you, Blood Splatter Chatter. Verno's watched it recently. Verno's going to be on the show next week, so we're going to have a fun show next week. So my final thoughts are this: yes, next week join us for Don't Torture a Duckling. Where can you find it to stream? Good fucking luck. Just buy the physical media. Trust me, it's worth it. And then Triangle. I love how I keep going triangle, not triangle. Triangle. What the fuck? Is that an accent right there? Anyway, Triangle on Dylan's Horror Show. PCP keeps going on. Check out my Kickstarter with the Reanimator book by Cullen Bunn. There's a cover with me, all that shit. It's cool. It's really cool, actually. I'm on a Reanimator cover. I hope you all buy it. I want to do another one of these, so I hope you buy it. So
I bought it.
I hope you buy it. Thank you, Jelani. You're one of the few. Thank you. So I appreciate that. And if someone wants to buy the original cover artwork for $1,000, the original cover artwork is on. Thank you, Mike. The original cover artwork for my cover is available on the Kickstarter for $1,000. If anybody wants to buy that and send it to me, that would be awesome.
Sure. Why
You don't have
not?
$1,000 to spend on art?
No. I wish. I wish if I did,
Market, buddy.
if I did,
If it was a Robbie head going down on that scene there, I'd get it. But that's what you got to do.
well,
man. That's
they
worth
told me I
$1,000.
couldn't reference the movie in the cover, and I really
Oh,
trust
really?
me. I had the initial cover idea was straight up the movie poster. It wasn't me going down on Barbara Crampton. Okay, that was
That
dope.
would be good.
I
Would that
wasn't
be
going to do
nice?
that. My
I do
original
that one. I pay
the
$1,000
original
for that.
idea was my head on a tray on a table with Herbert West injecting me right with the reagent, and they were like, we can't reference the movie, and I'm like, then why are we doing a reanimator cover?
They must have the license for the comic if they're doing a comic,
I
right?
got the license to H.P. Lovecraft because it's in the public.
Oh, the original.
Yeah, no reference to the movie, but anyway, thank you all for joining us. Join us next week for Don't Torture a Duckling, but join us Saturday for Triangle, and on Thursday we're doing Scream 6 in a spoilery way. And if you haven't checked out the Ron B conversation that we did yesterday, definitely check it out because it's one of the best conversations we've ever had. We're dipping out, and remember, just be who you are. Live your truth. Self-actualize. It's important. Dress to slay.
And don't go.